It often happens that we must learn about topical distortion. It happens often that you must have noticed that when some websites rank, SEO companies work on a website and then they leave it to its own devices. Perhaps a bigger client arrived, the smaller one wasn't manageable, so they abandoned it, or their budget ran out, or they reached a certain limit. Now, those companies start to distort the topical map. They do this by hiring inexperienced SEOs. These people do not have a strong conceptual idea, and they start covering topics that might seem slightly relevant. The result is that the website faces severe penalties from Google when an update comes along. To understand map distortion, we first need to understand what a topical map is. A topical map is essentially a structured representation of data curated by focusing on numerous factors. It is based on these factors that the topical map is selected. When I create a topical map for my clients, I prioritize creating a map that aligns with their core context, meaning the business model or user needs. This means you must only create content that relates to the business model and cover those topics. A properly crafted topical map ensures the website becomes an authority in its niche and dominates by covering related topics comprehensively and semantically. What factors are involved in creating a topical map? User behavior. You must understand the end goal and the main intent of a person when they search. The first thing you must ask the client is, what is the end goal of the user who visits their site? How does their business model work? How does the business model earn money? How does it convert visitors into customers? Therefore, the finalized topic must be directly related to the business model to ensure they meet user goals and outcomes. Alignment with outcomes means user behaviors must be tied to outcomes. This means understanding not just how the user searches, but also what they are looking to achieve. And do not just look at what the user is searching for, but understand their end goal. Collect query data from third-party tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs, and then cross-reference it with the data your client provided you on how their business model works. This ensures that your topical map covers the contextual domain as much as possible. If you have watched the lecture on contextual domains, then you will understand this point. When you observe this criterion, it meets the user's expectations and provides an optimal experience. Incomplete coverage or missing important topics signals a lack of authority. When you miss important topics that are core and are main attributes, this signals to the search engine that you are lacking in authority. The topics must have a pure semantic relation with their main entity, which is the central entity, the business model, and the user. The process of implementing a topical map starts with organizing the topics after all the processing is done. Then, we create a content brief, keeping various factors in mind, including the macro and micro canons of writing. After that, we send it to our writer. You must have explained everything to the writer about how these things work, and then you have the content created by them. Now, when does distortion occur? It occurs when random and unrelated pages enter your topical map. Let's say you finalize 200 pages. When we start publishing and traffic grows, the decision makers, the website owners, start making strange moves. They start covering weird, random, or unrelated topics on their site. Or sometimes they start getting stingy and say, let's hire a cheap person who can work for less. These pages disrupt your semantic relationship, which also dilutes the quality of the historical data, which I explained in great detail in the historical data lecture. Subsequently, as time passes, these things confuse the search engine regarding the website's focus. It then impacts the ranking, affects the overall quality, and at the end, your website gets penalized and the focus becomes zero. Negative impacts include ranking signal dilution. I have an entire lecture on how these signals get diluted. When random pages are created, the focus is lost, and sometimes you end up with keyword cannibalization. You cover multiple topics, or you cover one topic multiple times. Next is context relevance dilution. Google understands context relevance dilution. It maps out your entire website to see how context is linking, what a certain thing is about, and in what context it exists. Sometimes the agency or the website owner dilutes the quality. The website does not fall instantly. It doesn't fall overnight. Slowly, gradually, it slips into a negative state. It keeps dropping with every passing day. So when a core update comes, it severely impacts the website, and at the end, it loses all its ranking. It becomes vulnerable. The historical data becomes low quality. It takes you 6 months to change its state if you want to rank it again. Short-term versus long-term impacts. When you cover low-quality random topics, traffic will not drop instantly. Google will take time to gather historical data for those websites and will do further analysis during updates. When users don't stay long on the pages, pogo sticking happens and dwell time decreases. At the end, they fall victim to the updates. How to avoid topical map distortion, building bridges. Whenever you introduce a new topic, you must create a contextual bridge for it, meaning you provide a long, detailed context on how this new topic is relevant to the existing one. If you are creating a new topical map, you still need to provide proper context and link it to the existing topical map. So maintaining quality at all levels. Whether it's macro or micro, you must provide high quality at every level. Create a detailed content brief that includes relevant phrases and contextual headings. Furthermore, ensure there is a proper semantic flow based on research and query data. You should train your writers regarding the semantic rules so they can build good and semantically optimized content for both users and search engines. If you want to expand the topical map, make sure that the new topics align with the business model. Additionally, ensure that semantic relationships are established within the existing topical map. Create detailed contextual bridges between the old and new topics so that your context remains maintained and your ranking signals are protected.